Welcome back to Fixing My Faith. My name is Vern Houle. I will be the host for the next few minutes. And for those of you that do not know me, I'm an ex-Jehovah's Witness. I was in the organization for some 30 years. Spent the last part of my term regular pioneering in the high Arctic of Canada, serving in unassigned territories. So in 2012, I left the organization, and when I left, I walked away. But then it's like the organization, they kind of follow you a bit, and they try to get you back. But if you resist, then they shun you, and they find ways of calling you not good association. They call it unfit association, bad association, spoils useful habits was a term. So these are common things that happen within a Jehovah's Witness congregation. I was guilty myself for the 30 years that I was in the organization of shunning, being a part of the organized shunning and how that works. And a person doesn't have to be disfellowshipped, they just have to walk away. And if they walk away and they resist any attempts for elders, because they'll try to recover you and bring you back into the fold. So if you resist, like I did, I said, I want to be a do not call. I might have used swear words, but then you're marked down as a do not call. No one bothers you again, but then you are shunned. So if you have former family members, perhaps, they shun you. Like you're completely shut out, and it's dangerous for Jehovah's Witnesses to leave the organization, because once they leave the organization, they have no association on the other side, because they are taught all those years to shun people on the outside. They're called worldly, they're called satanic, under Satan's control. Jehovah's Witnesses are taught that the governments are the wild beast, and that the religions are the harlots, and the harlots and the wild beast have fornication together. This is what we're taught, and we taught our kids this stuff, which is almost subtle pornography when you think of it in that terms. It's not good teachings, but this is what was taught by the Revelation Grand Climax book over and over again, not just once, but they had us go through this book 2 or 3 times to inculcate that the governments, the political powers of this earth are the wild beasts, and all of the other religions are the harlots that have fornication with the wild beast, and they will be destroyed at Armageddon. And this is what Jehovah's Witnesses are taught, and this is what we believed for years. And now that the information age has come, when I started, there was no cell phone, so all we had was books, encyclopedias. So if I wanted to research Jehovah's Witnesses, there was really not much on them. But now today, many years later, 40 years later, 50 years later, we are in the information age, and everything that was hidden is now revealed, and it's all out there. And then Jehovah's Witnesses had to use the internet for a couple of years during the virus. So all the Jehovah's Witnesses went to the internet, and they were told to, so they did. And then they started seeing things. And this caused a cognitive dissonance in the brain. And it would come out as PTSD, as forms. Now we're seeing some of the things happening. So Jehovah's Witnesses, most coming out of the organization, may have a form of PTSD. And I have some videos on my site. If you subscribe and take a look at my site, and I talk about it like coming out of the military, like coming out of a war. And we were taught to use the Bible as a sword. We would use it. We were told that it wasn't a sword, but we were taught to use it as a sword. And if you try leaving the organization, that Bible comes out and it becomes a sword. And they try to use the sword to pull the flock in. And the swords are sharp, so some of the words are sharp, and they use the Bible can be used in many different ways. And sometimes we don't see this all. When I was young, I didn't see this. But now that I got out of religion, got out of the organization, got out of religion, organized religion, I still have a belief in God, but I got out of it all. I can actually look back and see all of these things like crystal clear. like looking through the water in this cup. It's just so clear. Now, what we're going to do today is we're going to come from the angle, we're going to look at the Jehovah's Witness news. And we're going to look to see what they're covering up, what they're hiding. And if you just follow along with me, we'll take a look at it. So here's the news, Jehovah's Witness news, breaking news. Shooting at the Kingdom Hall in Hamburg, Germany. On March 9th, 2023, a shooter attacked the Hamburg Winterhude Kingdom Hall. I might be challenged with some names, sorry about that. After the midweek meeting had concluded. Sadly, 4 brothers, 2 sisters, and a sister's unborn child were killed in this shooting. Several other brothers and sisters were injured. Local elders are providing spiritual comfort to the family members and friends of those affected. We appreciate the courageous help provided by the police and the emergency services. Our prayers are with all those affected by the attack. We're confident that Jehovah, the God of peace, will continue to be a refuge and a strength in this time of distress. Now, what Jehovah's Witnesses, out of everyone, they know all the details, and they know more details than you think. So they know all of the details. Headquarters knows all of the details, all of the people, all the players, all the elders, all the district overseers, all the circumstances surrounding this family, this shooter. Now, you notice how they broadcast it. They say a shooter attacked the Hamburg Kingdom Hall, a shooter. So this could lead one to believe, oh, this is a bad world we're living in. There's shooters all over the place, and they could attack these demonic, satanic people out there. You see, this is what this is. But this is really a brother attacked. This is a brother, and we're going to find this out later. So there's a piece of information that's misleading in this article. They're not being upfront. So sadly to say, this is the biggest event for Jehovah's Witnesses so far. And this coincides with the Colorado deal, the shooting. And now we start to speculate, is there going to be what they call it, copycat shooters, people coming out of the box just shooting. And this is what worries the world. What do we have here? Do we have a ticking time bomb within this organized, they call it a religion. You see, the problem is, and you'll see on this channel, we have a petition to stop charity toward religions such as the Jehovah's Witnesses because of the shunning policy. And what we can show as insiders, and for me, I walked away, just like this guy, I walked away from the organization, the shooter. I wasn't a shooter, but he walked away. Let's get the whole story. You'll never get the whole story on the Jehovah's Witness website. So now we're in the information age, and you can look around and you can watch so many news. This has been picked up by the whole world, by every newscast. This is the most damaging piece of information for the Jehovah's Witness cult. And this could be the start of it. Who knows? But anyways, it's not nice. What has happened is not nice. But what's going to happen now is the authorities are looking, well, who do we blame? Who do we blame for this stuff? Well, if you talk to any of us ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, we will take you right to the governing body, because they're the cult leaders and they inculcate shunning into their policy, and they're very strict about it. So our petition for Canada is to stop charity. Let's just stop treating these guys as religions. They're companies. And the Jehovah's Witnesses are a printing company. They print a fictional story about how the end's going to happen, a fictional story about 1914. And all of these dates didn't happen, so they keep changing their fictional story. But the problem is there's 8.5 million people on Earth that believe it's true. And I believe there's another 12 million that also believe it's true. They're called mixed company. They're people on the fringe, people that attend, people that study, people that have left the organization and have not fixed their minds about this. It takes a lot of work to get out of a cult. I can say that from experience, a lot of work. Now, let's get the other side of this story. And we have to go on the earth to all kinds of news places, and we'll get it. Now, here it says, a German mass shooter turned on his former religious community, say the police. So right out the gate, right off the topic, we nail this. This is a shooter turned on his former religious community. This is a brother. This is a brother that left the hall. We're going to get more information in this article. The gunman who killed 7 people at Jehovah's Witness Hall in Hamburg had left on bad terms. Now we're getting to the point of it. Anybody that leaves on bad terms. Why would they leave? So everyone that leaves that organization leaves on bad terms. German police said the man who went on the shooting spree at Jehovah's Witness Hall in Hamburg on Tuesday night, killing 7 people, was a former member of the community who had left it on bad terms. Yeah, we'll talk about bad terms. The attack triggered widespread horror and outrage in the country where mass shootings are rare. See, mass shootings don't happen in Europe. And Andy Grote, Hamburg's interior minister, called it the worst crime in modern history of our city. So here we have it, Jehovah's Witnesses, the worst crime in the modern. This is just bad, 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 bad. Now let's carry on. 7 people died in this attack, and that is sad. That is terrible, including a pregnant woman, and 8 were wounded, 4 of them seriously, and the perpetrator, who apparently turned his gun on himself, was among the dead. Thomas Razsweet of Hamburg State Protection Service said it had so far not been possible to establish a motive for the crime. We'll talk about that in a second. However, he said the killer, identified only as Philip F., age 35, and that's important, age 35, had been a member of the Jehovah's Witness community he targeted and had voluntarily left it about 18 months previous on bad terms. Police said many more people might have died, but for the swift arrival of law enforcement officers at the scene. They arrived at 9:08, just 4 minutes after the first calls were made to the emergency service, and included a special unit trained to deal with the mass shootings. And that's unheard of, that kind of service, 4 minutes from a phone call, so never make a prank call. Once police entered the building, the shooter fled to the first floor and shot himself. Police discovered his body on the floor and a handgun by his side. You see, none of this is on JW News. Investigators who searched the shooter's flat in Hamburg on Tuesday night discovered 15 loaded magazines, each containing 15 bullets, and 4 additional boxes with 200 bullets. They also confiscated the killer's laptops and smartphones. Officials said Phillips F., who was single and came from Bavarian town of Memmingen, excuse me if I missed that, but lived in Hamburg since 2014, had firearms license as a sports marksman. He owned a Heckler and Koch P30 handgun, which he used in the shooting. Ralph Martin Meyer, Hamburg's chief of police, said authorities had received an anonymous complaint about Philip F. in January, asking them to check whether he should be allowed to hold a firearm license. So here, there was a complaint back in January about this guy from someone questioning his mental capability, I guess, carrying this firearm. The author of the letter believed Philip F. might be suffering from a mental illness, although it had not been medically diagnosed. And we're going to talk about that at the end of the program. The person said Philip F. nurtured a deep anger towards religious people, especially Jehovah's Witnesses, and his former employer. You see, a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses work for Jehovah's Witnesses. So Jehovah's Witnesses a lot of times have janitorial companies, window washing companies, and so they hire young Jehovah's Witnesses. In fact, I was recruited when I was 18, and I did janitor work for a year, paid my rent, and then eventually I got smart and I went to night school and took electronics, and I didn't have to do that anymore. But a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses stick at it, and they become janitors their whole life, and they work for Jehovah's Witnesses. And then there can be problems at work, problems at the hall. It carries on. And you see, in the Jehovah's Witness religion, there's no inside counseling, professional counseling, or outside counseling. They discourage outside counseling. The elders are the counselors. So you go to the elders, they open up the Watchtower, the many pages of the Watchtower, to find out an article relating to what you need to do. And most articles say that you need to do more preaching. You need to just be more loving. You need more preaching. Get out in the ministry more, do a family study more, read the Bible more. You see, but as professionals, you see, if that person went outside to a professional, he may have to go to an institute. He may have some psychology problems, issues in the mind. And we're going to talk about that in a bit. But in the Jehovah's Witness organization, the elders are the doctors. Even to the point of telling you not to take a blood transfusion. And we wonder, you get shot, you're losing blood. If they can't transfuse blood quick, then there's loss of life unnecessarily. Not to say that this happened here, but this is what happens. They estimate over 31,000 Jehovah's Witnesses have died because of not taking blood transfusions, because of believing a group of men in New York that claim to be God's channel to mankind. Now, we're going to carry on here. The author of the letter believed Philip F. might be suffering from mental illness, although it had not been medically diagnosed. The person said Philip F. nurtured a deep anger, and we read that, toward the people, toward the employer. So in February, police visited Philip F.'s flat, unannounced, to follow up on the complaint, but didn't find anything untoward. The man was cooperative and had open conversation with the police officers. The German Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, a former mayor of Hamburg, described the attack as a brutal act of violence, adding that his thoughts were with the victims and their loved ones. Well, of course, that's what it looks like. The official website of the Jehovah's Witnesses in Germany, whose members number about 170,000, said in a statement that the community was deeply saddened by the horrific attack. And of course, the whole world is. This is just terrible. I think this could be stopped, and I'll talk about it in a little bit. Though mass shootings are rare in Germany, their incidence has increased slightly in recent years. In October 2019, a far-right extremist killed 2 people in an attack outside a synagogue in the city of Halle on Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. In February 2020, an extremist in the western city of Halle shot and killed 9 people, mostly from immigrant countries, before turning his gun on his 72-year-old mother and himself. So that's the end of this article. This is the most horrific event in this time that we're living. And now this is going to open up all kinds of speculation. I think my thoughts are talk to some of us ex-Jehovah's Witness to see really what goes on within the Jehovah's Witness cult. Now, my next part is a verse, and this is a verse for all Jehovah's Witnesses, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. We're reading this from the Jehovah's Witness Bible, even though it's the most inaccurate Bible on earth. But it does have some of the scriptures in there and part. So we're going to read from the Jehovah's Witness Bible, Galatians chapter 6 and verse 7. It says, "Do not be misled. God is not one to be mocked. Whatever a person is sowing, or an organization or a religious organization is sowing, this he or the religious organization will also reap." So it goes on to say, because the one sowing with a view to his flesh will reap corruption from his flesh, but the one sowing with a view to the Spirit will reap everlasting life from the Spirit. And it says, so let us not give up on doing what is fine, for in due time we will reap if we do not tire out. So then, as long as we have the opportunity, let us work what is good toward all, but especially toward those related to us in the faith. Now, here this young man, this 35-year-old, that went into this kingdom hall, he left 18 months early. He left the kingdom hall, and he was still a brother, still related to the governing body, still related to everyone in faith, probably as relatives in the organization, maybe left a wife or something. It's hard to say what would drive him this hard. But it says right here in the Bible, we will reap what we sow. So this is a warning to all of us and to the religious organizations for what they are doing and allowing to be done, like stopping blood transfusions, promoting shunning, disfellowshipping. These religious organizations that claim to be God's organization, that shun people to the degree that they become mentally insane, has to stop. And we have a petition on my channel here from Canada to stop giving charity to these kinds of organizations. And it's that simple. All over the world, we just stop giving charity. We stop treating these organizations like religions, because religions help people. Religions don't discriminate. religions help feed the poor. Jehovah's Witness religion just prints literature. It's very clear. We're in the information age. The handwriting is on the wall. This is clear, friends. This is clear. Here it is, verse 10. So then, as long as we have the opportunity, let us work what is good toward all, but especially toward this guy that left the faith, that walked away. He has some issues. Let's get him some mental help. Let's get him into the hospital. Let's help this brother that's distraught out. You see, every other organization on earth helps the people out. Seventh-day Adventist builds hospitals. The Mormons have an inside medically approved help center for people. The Jehovah's Witnesses have nothing. If you're in some of these religions and you're destitute, they will help you. Jehovah's Witnesses have nothing. They just print literature. They're a printing company that uses the Bible as a mascot. Now, I want to talk about what happens when you leave the Jehovah's Witness organization. It's solitary confinement. Because as I explained earlier, you leave, you know no one on the outside. You're by yourself. You're in your own mind. You believe that you're going to die at Armageddon. You believe you've done the worst sin in the world by leaving. And let's talk about solitary confinement. That's what it is. Just go to Wikipedia. Solitary confinement is a form of imprisonment in which the inmates live in a single cell with little or no meaningful contact with other people. A prison may enforce stricter measures to control contraband on the solitary prisoner and to use additional security equipment in comparison to the general population. So you see, the Jehovah's Witnesses, if you leave, they will follow you around looking for a way to disfellowship you and even make your life worse so that they can publicly announce that you're detestable, that you're an outcast, don't talk to you. And that's what they do. Solitary confinement is a punitive tool within the prison system to discipline or separate disruptive prisoner inmates who are security risk to other inmates, the prison staff, or the prison itself. You see, Jehovah's Witnesses believe that people that have gay or lesbian feelings are an outcast, so they get rid of them. People that have other beliefs, people that look at maybe their indigenous beliefs or their other cultures, they demonize them, they outcast, they shun them, and then they publicize this. And this is how solitary confinement works. It's also and Jehovah's Witnesses say, well, we're doing this to protect the sheep. We have to protect the sheep. You've asked a bad question. We have to protect the sheep from you. You said that our Bibles may be built by occult. We have to protect the sheep. Shun that guy. You see, this is how these religions work. Now, I want to talk about solitary confinement because that's what this is. Solitary confinement, which is also referred to as segregation, isolation, or separation, is a practice of confining an individual in custody to a cell by themselves for 22 hours or more, or a day, often for prolonged periods at a time. Now, you notice 22 hours, and all the stuff I'm reaching, they talk 23 hours a day. It says here in this other article, inmates in solitary typically live in a small cell for up to 23 hours a day. They have little sensory stimulation like sunlight, access to reading material, educational programming, and personal property is limited or non-existent. Well, when you come out of the Jehovah's Witness religion and you walk away, you believe everything is demonized. If you were really in it and you believed it, you believe walking out, everything's demonized. You're just not sure of everything. And 18 months is not a long time when there's no help out there for Jehovah's Witnesses leaving. You can go crazy because you live within your head and you're afraid to go on the internet because it's demonized. Now, let's go on further. So how long can you stay in solitary confinement? Nearly every state uses some form of solitary confinement, but there's no federal reporting system that tracks how many people are isolated at any given time. Prisoners are often confined for months or even years, with some spending more than 25 years in a segregated prison setting. So far in my setting, I left in 2012, it's 2023. So do the math. I've been out for 12, 13 years in solitary confinement. Can't talk to family, old friends. No one will talk to you. I talk to the internet. That's my outlet. So let's carry on. Solitary confinement. What does solitary confinement do to a man? The lack of human contact and the sensory deprivation that often go with solitary confinement can have a severe negative impact on a prisoner's or a disfellowshipped or a person leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses mental state that may lead to certain mental illnesses such as depression, permanent or semi-permanent changes to the brain's psychology. So you think this is the point that we've been trying to bring out in this channel is the Jehovah's Witness religion. It's a slow and gradual process of changing a person's thinking. Now, I gave it to you guys hard at the beginning, and I talked about the governments being the wild beast and the religions the harlot, and they fornicate together, and that is real. They have all these graphic pictures in the Revelation book, and if any book should be banned from population, it's that book. It's destructive. It even goes on to talk about the UN and how destructive the UN and how the UN's all involved. But now the Jehovah's Witness religion is going to the European Union and going to the UN and going to these agencies for help and support. And they're going to the police. So happy that you got to our hall really quick, but don't give anybody a blood transfusion. You see, this is a cult, and it's turning on itself, and I'm going to show you that from the scriptures. But it's hard when you leave that organization. It causes mental problems, permanent or semi-permanent changes to the brain psychology. That's what it does, and it's an existential crisis, and it leads to death. I had 2 heart attacks, and now outside, I feel better than ever. My mind is clear, but that's only in the last year, not long. I was out for 12 years, and it still eats at your mind. It's like poison. Now, let's talk about what the Bible says, because the Bible talks about this stuff. The Bible talks about how the apostles were arrested and freed. And you remember that we'll look at this so you can look at your own Bible. It's from Acts chapter 5. And this is Peter was here. He was involved in this whole ordeal. And I'll just read this part. Now, when they heard this, they were enraged and wanted to kill them. Well, what happened? This is the scribes and the Pharisees. They wanted to kill Peter and his group that were preaching. And it goes on to say in verse 34, but a Pharisee in the council named Gamaliel, a teacher of the law, held in honor by all the people, stood up and gave orders to put the man outside for a little while. And he said to them, men of Israel, take care what you are about to do with these men. For before these days, Theudas rose up, claiming to be somebody, and a number of men, about 400, joined him. He was killed, and all followed him were dispersed and came to nothing. And after him, Judas the Galilean rose up, and the days of census drew, and they drew some people after him, and he too perished, and all who followed him were scattered. And he says in verse 38, he says, so in the present case, I tell you, keep away from these men and let them alone. For if this plan or this undertaking is of man, it will fall. But if it is of God, you will not be able to overthrow them. You might even be found opposing God. So they took his advice, and they had called the apostles. They beat them, charged them not to speak in the name of Jesus, and they let them go. And then they left the presence of the council, rejoining them were the counted. So the point in this part of the scriptures is like the Gamaliel said, that if we let people alone, and that's basically what the world has done. They've let their religions alone. They left them alone, and to see if they're from God. What they do, they will either prosper, they will keep going if God's blessing them, or they will fall apart within themselves. And there's lots of religious groups, lots of cults out there that have formed and become very big, but then they start to tear apart within because the counsel isn't from God. And I think that's what we're looking at here when we look at the Jehovah's Witness religion is The Jehovah's Witness religion uses elders as lawyers, as doctors, as judges. But yet in Romans, the verses in Romans 13, verse 1, it says, honor the governments, honor the authorities. And we have all of these services in front of us. So why not honor them? Why not use them? When we have people with mental disabilities or problems, we get them help. We seek out help for them. And this can happen and should happen, in my opinion, right within the church. It should seek out to professional help. And that does not help in the Jehovah's Witness religion. In fact, here's an article from the National Library of Medicine. This is not my words. This is the National Library of Medicine. It's a National Center for Biotechnology Information. And anybody can go online. It's pubmed.ncibi.nlm.ni.gov. So it's a government publication, and it's by real professionals. This is by someone with a Bachelor of Psychiatry. The Mental Health of Jehovah's Witnesses is the title of this article. Now, I'm just going to read the abstract. It says the function of religion in human society is complex. The part played by religion in psychiatric disorders is even more obscure. Previous literature and theories are divided into two groups. One school believes that intense religiosity is a symptom complex indicative of psychiatric disorder, while the opposing view is that religious belief in some way acts as a defense mechanism protecting the individual and his psyche. The present study of 50 Jehovah's Witnesses admitted to the mental health service facilities of Western Australia suggests that members of this section of the community are more likely to be admitted to a psychiatric hospital than the general population. Did you guys get that? So this is in Australia, where they did this mental study on 50 Jehovah's Witnesses. And they came up and said that this community, this Jehovah's Witness community, are more likely to be admitted to a psychiatric hospital than the general population. And it goes on to say, furthermore, followers of the sect are 3 times more likely to be diagnosed as suffering from schizophrenia and nearly 4 times more likely from paranoid schizophrenia than the rest of the population at risk. Now, if you go onto my site, I did a part called The Naked Jehovah's Witness. And here in my backyard, there was a group of Jehovah's Witnesses driving around in the wintertime, snow on the ground, naked, thinking that the end of the world was coming. And it hit the worldwide news. I did a part on it. You can see it on my videos. And this is what happens, this paranoid schizophrenia. And this is what came out in court, is they were so paranoid, the schizophrenia is so bad that they believed the end was coming November 6th back then, 2018 or something, yeah. Now let's carry on. It says 4 times more likely than the rest of the population at risk. So these findings suggest that being a member of the Jehovah's Witness faith may be a risk factor predisposing to schizophrenic illness. Did you get that? If you're in the Jehovah's Witness faith, you're a higher risk to schizophrenic illness, and seek out some help, please. Further studies would be interesting in investigating whether pre-psychotic people are more likely to join the sect than normal people, and what part, if any, membership has in bringing about such a breakdown. So Jehovah's Witnesses are being studied neurologically, psychotherapy. Now, what about for Jehovah's Witnesses coming out of the organization? What about for all the poor people in there? What about for all the poor people in that Kingdom Hall that lost all their family members? And by the way, we feel so bad. We feel so sorry for all you people. We were in there with you. It could have been us in the Kingdom Hall. And this is why I'm saying get online, Zoom into the meetings. It's not safe to go to the Kingdom Hall meetings any longer. There's too many repeating situations. There's shootings. We covered them all, the recent ones. One guy got shot. He had an iPad right at the Kingdom Hall. The iPad saved his life. The bullet got lodged in the iPad. The other victims were in Colorado. They died and pointed the gun at themselves. You see, when Jehovah's Witnesses leave the religion, There's nothing else left. It's the end. They are told by the elders that they're as good as dead. I was told I'm as good as dead. What do you think that does to a person's mind? It's not good. And this is the problem with shunning. And that's why, again, we have on our site, sign our petition if you're Canadian, get involved with the BeFree.com, BeFree2023.com in the US, because we have to work together to help society, to help all the people that are in the Jehovah's Witness community, because they don't see it. I did not see it for 30 years. And even when I left, I did not see it for another 10 years. So that tells me how deep the programming goes. And like some of these articles are saying, it may never leave. A person may never get rid of some of this indoctrination. It's that deep. Now, here's what's available. We're going to be doing more about this. We're going to have a separate part on our program on this. But this is you can go to it on your website. It's called recoveringfromreligion.org. And this is a group. Some of the other activists are advertising this group on their websites as well. And all you got to do is click this green box. You come in. I'm not going to click it today because I am going to set that up for a separate video. And we're going to demonstrate how this works. And we talked to the owners of this site. And I'm going to play a little video. But first of all, I wanted to show you, they do need volunteers. They're setting this up for all over the world. And it's recovering from religions. If you're questioning your beliefs, navigating life as a non-believer, we can help. So wouldn't it be nice if you're leaving, you come out and you can find there's a whole community of people that can help you. And you can go to the volunteer section. And this is a message to all the ex-Jehovah's Witnesses out there that are watching this, is that this company is looking for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. They don't have many ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, and they're finding that there's more and more Jehovah's Witnesses, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses coming and calling and needing help. So the volunteers from anywhere at any time of the day, you can do this right from your home. And as Jehovah's Witnesses, as a former member, we were programmed to want to help people. And there's nothing wrong with helping people. And that can be a good part of our therapy, is to have an outlet where we can use our experience. So can you imagine you have all this experience as a Jehovah's Witness, you come out, you got yourself out, you figured out how to do it, maybe you read some books. Now you can share all of your skill set here with people anywhere in the world that need help. And maybe we can help some people before something like in Germany happens. Maybe we can get in there. Maybe this is an outlet that's online, and they click, they get in, and we could help people. So we're looking for helpline agents, support group leaders, grant application writers, international growth positions, billboard outreach point persons, online community moderators and social hosts, public speaking tour coordinators, RF ambassadors, video editors, writers, and other skill sets are required. So I encourage you to go right to their site, look at it all, the volunteer policy manual, get involved, and here's a way we can help people. Now I want to take you back to their main page, and the main page, we're going to go down and look right on their main page at a little video. And these guys, as you can see, they have all over Europe. They have a phone line set up to make calls. You can call physically from the phone, or you can just click on this green box at the top, and it's a web call. It goes right through your phone. And we're going to demonstrate that on another video. But we're going to close the program right here with this video. Here it is. This is a video they have on their site.
I grew up in South Africa and grew up in an evangelical Christian home. Most of my family were either pastors or active in one way or the other in churches.
I was always a very obedient Christian. I did everything. As long as I thought God wanted it, I did it. No matter what it was, no matter how much it hurt me.
I met with a great amount of racism. In the Bible college I went to, racism is very ingrained in the church, and I only really realized that when I came to the US, how ingrained it was.
I was raised a straight white male, and the way I was raised was the only option. I always felt uncomfortable in that role. I always felt uncomfortable being male. It's very much that culture of guilt that the church breeds.
I feel that I lost a large part of my life by being so ingrained in religion for such a long time.
Just the cost of my life and what I had invested into the church, and if it wasn't real, I would lose everything I had sacrificed, because I sacrificed pursuing science, I sacrificed having a career, everything, because I thought it was right.
For me, it wasn't recovering from the church or religion directly, because I never truly really believed. I kind of felt like it was all a hoax anyways. So that was easy for me to come out from under. I hadn't been indoctrinated. But the people I had to interact with as an adult very much were. And so that affected me negatively, because people try to impose their beliefs and their way of thinking on you. And when they discover that perhaps you think differently, they're afraid of you. And the first thing they want to do when they're afraid of you is get rid of you.
Recovering from religion has been a way that I could come to meetings and talk to people that had like experiences, and we could put it all out on the table and help each other get over the anxieties that we face.
Truly meet other people who have gone down similar roads, or who are investigating going down similar roads of whether it's disbelief or change in belief, or just recovering from damages from religion.
Being able to finally get myself out there and meet other people that I knew wouldn't judge me for not being a believer, and could understand how I felt about what I had gone through, and understand why I couldn't keep my faith. Like, that was extremely important for me.
Recovering from religion cares about you. We care about how you feel, where you are in your journey, whether it's just, you want to come and see what we're about, or you really need to just let it out, everything that's been inside, and you just need to let it out. We're there for you. We are here to support you along your journey. We're here to let you know that there's nothing wrong with you.
I'm finally now at a place where I really feel at peace with the people I allow to be part of my life and the people that I get to enjoy in my life.
I didn't have to walk it by myself. I was very much supported, had somebody there.
You don't have to go it alone. You have people there who can relate to you, who can help you through your journey, because they have been through the same thing themselves.
I have been able to and felt free to discover who I really am, what I really value and is important to me, without anybody else telling me what that is.
When you're at home and you're sitting there wondering, is this all I have? I'm alone in the world. I don't feel or think the same way that I grew up, and my family and my friends around me. Know that recovering from religion is there for you, and we care. That's what we're here for, is to help you along the way.
Well, thank you for watching that. So we're going to go back to, and you got the phone number and everything's there as well. You go onto the site. Now we're going to go back to the breaking news at the Jehovah's Witness site. Now, I wonder how they're going to help all the people in the Kingdom Hall. And that's who I really think about, is all the people. that are alive. All the families and the kids that seen all of this will need some help. So I'm sure in Germany they will do something. If not, will the Jehovah's Witnesses have an approved medical program to handle this kind of stuff? No, not that I know of. It would be outside help. It would be outside medical people. And again, we live in a country where these are freedoms. People have to want to receive help. You see, as a Jehovah's Witness, we were programmed to believe that the outside world was not the place to go to help. Go to the elders first, because they know where to get help. So, and then in some cases, the elders will send people to outside agencies. And I noticed more recently on their website, they're talking about people getting outside help for depression. So it sounds like, since I was a Jehovah's Witness, it sounds like they are changing their viewpoint and they are opening up a bit to having their members go outside for help. So in this case, I hope many of the members can come and look at recovering from religion. There is help there for people, and it's just go onto your website and it's just a click away and you can get some real professional help. And these people will take you and help you find relief. And especially if you're suffering, if you've left the Jehovah's Witness cult and you're suffering from PTSD and you have all these nightmares and these memories and these images and you can't shake them, then for sure come on to this site, click on here and seek out some help. So until next time, friends, keep living your life with love. And how do you do that? You can go down to the food kitchen, the food bank, and volunteer your time and help some people and get to know some people. And you get to know some people that are really having a tough time, and then you realize that your situation isn't that bad after all. And it's a way better than wasting gas going door to door in the field ministry. This is time that Jesus would have done. And that's what Jesus did. He helped feed people, and he looked out for the poor and the ones that were distraught. And he had a listening ear, and he would give them words of wisdom. So this is what we can do, friends. We have all of that within us, and we can share that as ex-JWs outside of the religion. We can also get involved, and even here, recovering from religion, we can become a volunteer if we feel we qualify, and we can start going down that track and help other Jehovah's Witnesses and ex-Jehovah's Witnesses coming out. And that's how we can live our life with love. So until next time, live your life with love. Bye for now.